What if the biggest opportunity in healthcare right now has nothing to do with a new technology that has to be FDA approved, but rather fixing how people work? What if the labor crisis didn't just begin and end with a lack of talent, but maybe it's a failure to maximize on the talent that's already there? Welcome to Expert Insights. I'm your host, Pedro Adorno, and this is where we focus on healthcare, medtech, business, and sales. Today, I was joined by Julie Schreen. Julie spent over a decade at Stryker, rising into leadership roles in both robotics and surgical sales, before she took the leap into entrepreneurship as the CEO and co-founder of Giggly. In this conversation, we actually break down what it looks like to walk away from a corporate career to start your own business with massive aspirations. We dive into what's really happening inside hospitals with their staffing and their labor, and how she's building a solution that is aimed directly at one of the biggest problems in healthcare today. We also get into career decisions, why your path doesn't need to be perfect, what a hiring manager actually wants to see. So no matter where you find yourself in your life today, this episode is going to challenge how you think about risk, growth, and opportunity. A quick note, if you're looking to break into medical sales, then you need to check out Med Sales Blueprint. And if you got value from this, please subscribe, rate, and share. Also, to learn more about Julie and what she's building at Giggly, you can find her on LinkedIn. Now, let's get into it. I guess we'll start with, what is it like at Giggly right now? Nice and simple.
That's a loaded question. I would say overall it's great. Obviously, an incredible transition from what I was doing and what I've known my whole career. But welcomed and fun. It's incredibly challenging, not for the faint of heart. Entrepreneurship and certainly the startup world is not for the weak. And I
Yeah,
learned that every day. Yeah, it's every cliche wrapped into one big puzzle. But
right.
it's good. It's really good. We're growing. We're adding phenomenal talent, which is really fun. You're no stranger to that, both with your experience managing people and then also being a part of teams where it's just awesome talent across the board. So that's been fun. And to kind of do it my way has been really cool and
Yeah,
rewarding. And so, yeah, we're in this sort of challenging spot right now where we're gaining early traction in the market, which is very exciting. Our product is being validated by the right people. But we're taking in all of this information, tons of feedback, tons of data, and we're at this kind of inflection point where it's what do we adopt versus not? How do we implement feedback in a meaningful way while still keeping our products simple, which is one of our, core tenets. But all good challenges to have. Like I'm incredibly thrilled with the problems that are being, you know, put in
yeah,
front of us. Yeah,
yeah.
it's fun.
Now that's exciting. I mean, as a leader now, dealing with all of the things, I'm sure, is there was there one moment where where you decided to transition from being in the corporate space, working for a large organization, like, hey, I'm doing this myself, or did it ramp up?
I'd say it was more of a ramp. Um, so Ryan, my husband, at
Mm-hmm.
least
Yeah.
loosely. And
Awesome guy.
yeah, thank you. I think
Big
so
fan.
too. Me too. Um, and he's always been an entrepreneur since he graduated from college. He did a very short stint in corporate America and just realized very quickly it was not for him. So
Mm.
he's always been in my ear, just around partnering up with him, teaming up with him, taking Schreen Enterprises to the next level. And I've always been so much more corporate minded. I've always had goals of climbing the corporate ladder, and that's always been where my focus lies and was. My dad was a longtime corporate guy, had an incredibly successful career, and I always sort of envisioned following in his footsteps. And I did. I started out in a marketing capacity early on in my early 20s. I actually was selling, that's not true. Straight out of college, I was selling telephone landlines to small and medium-sized businesses, literally going
Really?
door to door. Yes, going door to door. And mind you, I'm going to date myself, but this was in a time where cell phones were not in every person's hand, but they were certainly starting to become incredibly popular. So here I was selling telephone landlines into small and medium-sized businesses in a time when telephone landlines were dying. So that was kind of my first sales experience, and I genuinely credit a lot of my success to that time because it was the hardest job I've ever had. It sucked. I mean, there's just no other way around it. I was surrounded by great people. I always have been really fortunate in my career to always be surrounded by great people. So it wasn't the people, it was the product. But man, did I grow a tough skin real fast. You
Yeah.
have to walk past no solicitation signs and kind of press forward. You get literal doors slammed in your face, not proverbial doors slammed in your face. So yeah, I did that, and then I transitioned into marketing, which is my sort of collegiate background, so to speak, and worked for a small private company based out of Seattle, Washington, which is where I lived. And our primary clients were Microsoft and T-Mobile, which are both headquartered in that area. And so did that, and then transitioned into healthcare. Worked for AmerisourceBergen for a number of years, which is large wholesale pharmaceutical. I was in their capital division. So I sold capital into the inpatient hospital pharmacy. That's how I learned about the healthcare landscape, what an IDN is, what a GPO is, all of those things. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
ultimately transitioned to Stryker, which is obviously where you and I had overlap. And so anyway, I say all that because I always thought I was going to follow this very traditional corporate career where you get into a company, you start at the bottom, and you climb and you work and you toil, blood, sweat, and tears your way up the corporate ladder. And I did start to do that at Stryker. It was incredibly rewarding. But again, my husband, we've been together 15 years now, so it's a long time where he's been like chirping at me about how entrepreneurship is the way to go. It's and feel free to edit some of this out, but corporate America is a false sense of security, all of these things. And
No.
listen, everyone has an opinion. We know what they're like. So
Yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
has an opinion. And every opinion is based on your own lens, the lens at which you view the world through. And so he's always been an entrepreneur. So of course he thinks that's the best and only path. Uh, but anyway, my corporate career and stint was amazing. I don't have a bad thing to say about it. It wasn't like there was this singular moment where something negative happened or I worked for someone who I didn't care for. Nothing like that that kind of propelled me into this other life. It truly just was this culmination of experience that I had gained over almost 20 years in corporate America, coupled with my spouse constantly chirping at me. And then really it was a moment where I sat at dinner with this chief nursing officer who I just thought, I mean, I was so impressed by her, so brilliant, incredible personality, so much charisma, and a deep understanding and care for healthcare and for her nurses. And I just listened to her talk. I could listen to her talk forever. She's one of those people. And she doesn't even know this, but she has an incredible influence on the next steps that I took after that. And I just really wanted to make a different impact in healthcare, different than the one I was making in corporate America. So I think it was just a culmination of things, honestly, Pedro, that led me to where I'm at. But no
Yeah.
singular moment. Certainly there was a moment where it was, okay, you're either going to go all in on what I'm doing now, giggly, or you're going to stay in corporate America. And ultimately it was, we had put
Right.
some time and money into um this opportunity, and it was, it's a full-time gig. Like you can't do this part-time. So
Yeah.
rubber met the road
100%.
basically and
Yeah.
transitioned over. Yeah.
Right. It's almost as if it's coming, and then maybe if there is a moment, that moment hits, and it's not like your whole world changes. Like, this
So
is the time now that I've been thinking about, that's been coming, and I've been feeling it, and everything kind of comes together and culminates. I would say, what advice do you have for those who are in the process of either finding their career or making a career adjustment? Because from what I'm hearing, you've been in sales, you've been trained in marketing, you've done all different sorts of sales. How do you, is it the evaluation of the product, the people? What are some key tenets?
keep it simple, stupid kind of gal.
Mm-hmm.
So my only advice would just be to start somewhere. It's never going to be perfect. You're never going to know what you're walking into with a new job or a new role or a new company or a new career path. There's so many more unknowns than there are knowns when you take a risk like that. The risk should be calculated, right? It should point you in a general direction of where you think you want to be. But I can tell you right now, I never thought for one single second that I would be sitting where I am today. I can assure you of that. And so I think it's just important to take a step, get in
Hmm.
somewhere, do something that you think is going to round you out or build a skill set maybe you don't have, or perhaps it's honing a skill set you do already have, like getting better at that one thing that you're really good at. But I would say start
Yeah.
somewhere. I mean, again, my parents didn't pay out of state tuition for me to land selling telephone landlines. I can promise you that. Um, but again, when I reflect on all of my work experience, I do point back a lot to that one, which is so fun to think about because it it was brutal. It was a grind, and it taught me so much about myself. It taught me so much about perseverance. It taught me about grit, all of those like kitschy words that you hear.
Yeah.
That's where I learned that. Not really anywhere else. And
Yeah.
so, again, to summarize, my advice would just be to take the first step. It's going to lead you somewhere. Either it's going to lead you down a path where you realize that's not what you want, or it's going to lead you down a path where it's like, okay, this is going to turn into something. Either way, it's good. It's kind of like
Yeah.
dating. You know, like
Take a risk.
you have to kiss a lot of frogs, and but you learn something through all of it. So take the first step. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink
Yeah.
it. I think we get stuck doing that, vetting the product, vetting the company, vetting this. Mistakes are incredibly important to learning and growth. So
Yeah.
don't worry too much about that.
Oh, so true. I love that. And that I feel like that comes from people who have been through it, where it's like it's not going to be perfect. You're
Never.
going to find your way. Very few people are like, "Hey, I'm going to be a golfer for the rest of my life," and it works out, or you know.
Right.
So, in take calculated risks, but it's also like pay attention to what's around you and to what's being offered, and get started, get going. I, I,
Move.
I I'm on
Yeah.
board. Even those words that you use like grit and resilience and all these things that you can read in a book, but you can learn about it, but you can't have it
Can't teach.
embedded in you. You can't really teach it to yourself, right? Until you go through something. And typically it's the things that you never planned to go through, for better or worse.
Yeah. Embrace the
So
stuff, as they say.
embrace the suck. Um, what's his name?
Yeah. I
Says
can't
that all the time.
remember. I knew you were gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
Not
Navy
my fault.
SEAL
But
mindset.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so Giggly, on a high level, what problem is it solving?
Yeah, I mean, on a super high level, I'm incredibly passionate about solving the healthcare labor crisis, which is
Mm,
obviously very lofty, and incredibly complex and nuanced, and it's going to be with us for a long time. This healthcare
yeah.
labor crisis, and just to be clear, there's a labor crisis everywhere. It's not just in healthcare. Obviously, my background lends itself to this particular segment or industry, and so that's why I started there. And also, it impacts me as a person in the general patient population. I have aging parents. I want healthcare to remain sustainable and affordable. And more importantly, I want to take care of the frontline healthcare workers that do this really hard job every day. And so, in a nutshell, we're aimed at solving the healthcare labor crisis. The way in which I'm focusing on it is how do we leverage hospitals or ambulatory surgery centers or anywhere in the healthcare spectrum, long-term care, skilled nursing, how do we take their internal employees and really drive efficiency and flexibility into that body of employees? There's a lot of solutions aimed at external labor sources like travelers and agency staff.
Yeah.
But I really have a passion and a deep care for the employees that show up every day, wear the name badge of the hospital, and dedicate their life to saving people. So I want to restore balance in the ecosystem in a nutshell.
Yeah. 100%. That's an issue. That's an issue that was coming up in conversations with executives when we were both with Mako. And we're selling a surgical robot. and that problem is so big, it's seeping its way. The discussion is seeping into conversations about a surgical robot. So I love that. And you're taking advantage of being in a place where you can make an impact. Where if you were to, from what I'm hearing, if you were to look at yourself back when you were knocking doors, selling landlines, hey, do you, do you know that in the future you're going to be making an impact on the labor crisis in healthcare that helps, people in their communities? I love that we can do that. That's why I say I love that we can make an impact. And if you could dive into a little bit what is typically the patterns now, the sequencing of events when it comes to the decisions that are being made with the choices of who is working and what happens when they don't have enough employees, what choices are hospitals making?
Yeah, I mean, and this is where I truly, truly feel for kind of both ends of the spectrum. You've got hospital executives who are charged with ensuring that the doors remain open so that they can deliver care to their patient population. So they're strapped with all of these challenges. I mean, it's a business at the end of the day, and they have to keep the doors open. And then on the other end of the spectrum is the nurse or the radiology technician or the surgical scrub. And, they work in a manner, or they have a job, I should say, that does not lend a ton of flexibility or autonomy. They have to show up at the hospital to take care of patients by and large. And so I feel for both sides. What's happening in healthcare today, which is exacerbating the healthcare labor shortage, is that the executives are not left with a ton of options when it comes to keeping the machine running and by that I mean getting people to show up for work and work the shift and all of those things.
Yeah.
Because you have a shrinking population of eligible employees, and then you have
Yes.
increasing demands. Um, for
Mm.
example, there's the baby boomer effect. As we all know, a lot of baby boomers will be retiring in the next, I guess, 4 years now. Many of them already have, but we're going to kind of come off this cliff, and they're going to retire and then re-enter as an aging population. I love my boomers, but we're all aging, included. But they're going to kind of re-enter the healthcare system as this aging patient population. So you have this retirement cliff where a lot of them are healthcare workers. They're going to leave at the workforce, but re-enter as a patient. And so it's a vicious cycle. But on
Yeah.
the right now, when there's a labor shortage in a given facility or in institution, executives are really left with a couple things. They can either try to maximize their current employee base, but there aren't a lot of really robust technologies or solutions for doing that in an efficient way. So oftentimes they just mandate, Pedro, you're going to stay overtime today, um, which no one likes, right? No one likes
No.
that. The executive or
No.
the nurse supervisor doesn't love that. It also creates cost constraints. So that's one thing. The nurse supervisors, it's the good old fashioned pick up the phone and call your 5 people that you can count on. Hey, can you cover this shift? Can you come in and help out? Or they're blasting out group text messages, highly ineffective and also really inefficient.
Yeah.
You're also not meeting the employee in a way that they're accustomed to digesting information in today's world. Everything's app based, everything's on your phone. I'm not answering my phone. Well, we're in sales, so we always answer our phone in off hours. Back when I was an hourly employee, I wasn't picking up my phone in off hours. Those
Right.
are off. That's sacred, and you
A
can't fault
shift
people over
worker.
that.
A shift
Exactly.
worker is not going to pick up their phone like someone who's
No.
making commission on the calls
Right.
that they get. Right.
Exactly.
Mm.
And then, or they have to turn to what's called these premium labor sources. And that comes in the form of a nurse traveler or a radiology tech traveler, agency staff. But those
Mm.
sources, although useful in that moment, are incredibly costly. And so this will be very controversial, but my goal is to wipe those off the face of the earth. Not the people. I love the people, but I want to bring them back into the healthcare ecosystem as an employee of the hospital, as an employee
Huh.
of the delivery center. Um,
Yes.
and so that's kind of how we're approaching it. That is my
I
goal
love
and my
that.
vision for healthcare is like, I mean, there was a time, Pedro, within our careers where you saw long-term career
Yeah.
nurses, 20 years. It was an
Fact.
incredibly, um, desirable and,
Hmm.
prestigious role. And I
Yep.
want to get back there where there's, they stay for a long time because the culture's great. They love their patients, they love their employer, they love the nurse supervisor they work for, whatever it is. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, they're skilled workers, right? They're certified, trained. When the country is in crisis, right? They are the ones who are allowed to go back to work because we need them. Um, Absolutely. The pay and the benefits and all that, like everyone would have wanted a job like this. But now we have found ourselves in a place where I think a lot of the colleges that are training these students are having less and less students come in. And then I think, and you correct me, the way that they're being treated because of the labor crisis and the forced extra work or whatever it may be is making it less desirable. And they
yes,
probably don't even want to work there. So if they do have an option to be an entrepreneur or to transfer somewhere else because like, hey, this isn't for me. My sister-in-law went into nursing and very quickly she was like, this is not for me. And that's just one story that's probably being replicated everywhere throughout the country. So your
100%.
idea of I think, shoot for the stars to try and get us back to where we were is probably the mindset that's required to combat this tidal wave of an issue.
Yeah. But again,
So,
it's
yeah.
an imbalance, and it
Mhm.
was largely born out of COVID, not entirely, but COVID exacerbated a
Mm,
lot. Um,
yeah.
COVID exacerbated a lot of things. And one of them was this concept of, uh, you know, travelers and exorbitant costs associated with bringing those folks in. And it was necessary. To your point,
Right.
these these frontline healthcare workers were. I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of respect and admiration and awe I have for what they did during that time and always, but particularly during COVID. But it did, much like anything else, there's a lot of good that comes out of crisis, and there's also a lot of bad. And I think one of the bad was these exorbitant,
Yeah.
outside labor costs. And so yeah, I think I wanna just funnel some of that, monetary, uh, expenditure back to the employee. Reward your employees always, first and foremost.
Yeah.
And I truly
Yeah.
believe in that. Stryker did a great job of that, in my opinion, and I carry that cultural element through to what I'm doing today. It's you
Love that.
always take care of the people that show up for you and wear your badge and
Mhm.
represent your organization. And so we're not doing this in a manner that's punitive to these nurses because they make really good money as travelers. But I'm saying take some of that spend and funnel it back to the employee. Um, and that's how you get
Right.
those travelers to then re-enter as an employee. Is you make that a desirable place to work again. So um, yeah, I mean it's really exciting work. We're being met with a ton of positive reinforcement, which is amazing. And also a lot of feedback, which is great too. I'm here for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say naturally, right? Because you're solving a big problem, there's probably people saying, "Oh, here's a thought, here's an idea." But it's very cool to see because we find ourselves in a situation where there's a lot of people looking at the problem, not understanding how do you turn the time back? Where do we find ourselves when you have so much money going to these people and there's so many of them, right? And no offense to them, they're just taking advantage if they're willing to travel and do all these things. So be it. But everyone else sort of gets screwed over. Um, and so you've developed a way that brings balance, so to speak.
Yeah.
If you've made it this far, go ahead and click subscribe now so you do not miss the next one. And if you or a friend want help breaking into medical sales, the best place to go is medsalesblueprint.com.
Yeah, so I will say I'm incredibly proud. We're taking a really innovative, unique approach to doing it because it is going to take innovation in order to turn the clock back and in order to rebalance the ecosystem. You can't
Mm,
listen, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But if it's broken, you should probably try to figure out another way to do things. And that's
Yeah.
really challenging in healthcare. There's a lot of status quo, I'll say. It's like, well, this is the way we've always done it. And that's not unique to healthcare. That's everywhere, right? We all get set in our ways and we do things just because that's the way it's always been done. And so the way that we're approaching it uniquely is a couple different things. Number one, first and foremost, we're laser focused on internal employees. Our goal is to make the internal employee the first, the fastest, and the most cost effective solution to coverage. So we don't ever want you to have to look externally. There's a lot of negative unintended consequences with bringing outside labor into your hospital. They're unfamiliar with the facility. They don't know where things are. They're not familiar with their coworkers. There's so much
Right.
camaraderie in healthcare, right? These people show up every day. They are in the trenches saving lives. Can you imagine what that would be like? Can you imagine how close you grow to your coworkers? And so when you bring in an unfamiliar face or name, it creates some disruption. And then they're just not well ramped. It's not their fault, but they don't know the facility. They don't know where to go. Where's the restroom? Where's the break
Yeah.
room? Where are the supplies? So it's very
I'm only going to be here for 3 months, right? There's
well,
a
then
certain
there's that.
mindset when you know you're only going to be there for a limited amount of time. You're just the
Totally.
substitute teacher, so to speak, kind of thing.
Bingo. And we're all guilty of it. It's like this isn't
Mm-hmm.
long term,
It's
you know?
human
So
nature. Yeah, nothing against them, right?
oh, yep. So that's the key is how do we tap into the latency that I believe lies in your existing workforce, whether that's taking a part-time on, I have a girlfriend, she's an oncology nurse here in Colorado, and she's part-time. She's got little kids. She doesn't want to work full-time right now. She wants to balance keeping her identity as a nurse. She loves nursing. She loves oncology and the work she does. But she wants to kind of have the best of both worlds, work part-time for this amazing organization out here, but also be at home with her kids when she can. And I sat down with her and I said, you know, would you take more work if it was served up to you in a way that you had control and flexibility over? And she said, 1,000%. I
Yeah.
would pick up another 1, 2 shifts a month, but I can't commit to full time or I don't want to commit to full time. So there's untapped latency in folks like that.
Yeah.
And they're
Okay.
everywhere, Pedro. They're everywhere. So
I
how do I
see it now.
and so that's what we're focused on. And then the way that we're doing it is also unique. So we've done, AI is everywhere, as we know, and there's varying opinions about AI, when it's going to take over, and all those things. And I have had many an existential crisis since I transitioned into this whole AI world. And we can talk about that now or another time. But um,
It's
so
up to
many
you.
existential crises around AI. Nonetheless, we're using AI not to replace jobs, not to replace humans, but to enable the right behavior. So our AI, I call it a human resources mind reader. What it does is it learns behavior over time and over hundreds of thousands of lines of data to understand what is it monetarily that drives behavior. And the behavior we want is we want your internal employee to take the shift and show up for work, obviously. But we also want them to take it quickly so that the floor that they're working on and their supervisor can go about their day and not worry, shoot, I'm going to be so severely short staffed for the shift this afternoon.
Yeah.
And so that's how we're leveraging
Mm.
AI. And that's one of our core differentiators is we're we're learning human behavior. Is it $1 that gets Pedro off his butt and to pick up another shift? Is it $2? Is it $5? Where is that sweet spot? And what that allows
Mm-hmm.
obviously the executives to do is manage that better. And it does, it creates a win-win. You're making more money as an
Yeah.
employee above and beyond your current hourly wage. The executive has, line of sight and visibility to their spend, and they're also not bringing in that external worker. So,
Yes.
so that's how we're doing it is we're tapping into some behavioral psychology, which has been really fun to understand and study. And then just massive amounts of data that we allow AI to propose suggestions around. Again,
Yeah.
always have human intervention and oversight, but how do we better equip those supervisors and executives to make educated decisions on incentive pay that moves the needle? Right now, they just throw it against the wall largely to see what sticks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the hospital is, you can get down to the dollar spent or
Penny.
$5 spent to the penny and have it spent better, right? On a better decision, the ideal person, relieving stress, maintaining the culture,
Yep.
just through algorithmic methods that you're proposing to bring people um, who say no to full time, say yes to part time, but in reality, if there was flexibility in between, they
Well,
would take advantage of it. Yeah.
Yep.
So you're uncovering something that's already there, but now it's being proposed. It's an option.
Do believe that the solution to the healthcare labor crisis is sits under all of our noses, and it's how do you
Yeah.
maximize people in the four walls of your hospital or surgery center, and we're agnostic to role. Like we go into environmental services, so janitorial staff, biomedical engineering, respiratory therapy, radiology. Obviously, registered nursing is the largest body of employees in any hospital. They're critical to keeping that place humming, but we can go anywhere. So I always say, give me your biggest headache. Where's your biggest bottleneck for labor, whether that's from a shortage standpoint or a cost standpoint? I want your problem child. That's
Yeah.
exactly where
I wouldn't be surprised if you're getting pulled outside of healthcare into some other industry.
I have a space here. I'm gonna unplug it.
Sure, sure.
I'm like, I always run cold until I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then suddenly you're sweating.
I think that's called perimenopause. You can you can keep
Well,
that
I'm
in.
going through it too. So I think about it right before I start a podcast. I'm going to be staying there for an hour and a half. I hope I don't sweat or freeze.
I mean, am I gonna be hot? You can keep the perimenopause comment in there. I stand united with my fellow perimenopause women. Um, what was the question?
I don't remember.
Um,
Oh, it was other industries.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that's what's also been really cool is, we've had some loose interest from hospitality, so large restaurant chains in a
Okay.
geographically condensed area. Hotels suffer from labor shortages. Like I live in Colorado, like the ski lift operators were running at a shortage at one point. So recreation, hospitality, oil and gas, and then aviation. So yeah, there's been, again, I would call it very loose interest. However, I remain laser focused on healthcare and will till the bitter end. I think it's one, it's where I've spent the bulk of my career, so it's what I know. I'm familiar with it. And then obviously, Rick McDowell, so he's on board. He knows healthcare. Um, eh,
Yeah,
I'd put him up with anybody. And so anyway, I
I
will
do
stay
too.
in healthcare for the foreseeable future, if not forever, is the goal. And you know, that's where a lot of startups fail, candidly, is they try to be everything to everyone and they lose focus. And that is a fatal mistake. So it's
Yes.
I'm not willing to make.
Yes. I've seen it with myself. I've seen it with other companies. You get pulled in different directions. Um, and they're valid ideas. They come from valid individuals, right? Who have good opinions, but they're not sitting at the center of your company. They don't really know the core mission, values, and the trajectory, but they give you a good idea, and you're just like,
Well,
I
it's
could
very
see us.
enticing. Yeah.
Right, right. But then before you know it, you're so spread out. It's like, what have I done? Yeah. So I love the focus.
And there's so much to conquer in healthcare. I mean, so much. So we are more than busy with what's in front of us. So we'll stay put for now.
I want to shift the discussion over a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, so a lot of the people that come to me looking to get into medical sales are women,
Oh,
and
interesting.
you and I have been in the orthopedic space. When it comes to that, there's a lot of male reps. Um, I want to leave it open ended. There is no specific question, but I know for a fact that there are a lot of women listening, considering getting it into medical sales, or maybe already in. I want to hear
Yeah.
from someone like you who's made it to area sales manager to one of the best products in orthopedics.
Mhm.
What do you have to say to them? I guess I'd leave it there.
Yeah, I would say one, go for it. I think, and again, I- this isn't meant to be provocative, but it might be. Here's what I found: med device in general, whether you're in orthopedics or upper extremity or trauma, or wherever you are, it is a male dominated industry. Okay, it just is. So no matter where you go, you will be not one of one, but one of few. I always looked at it this way. I think it's a competitive advantage.
Hmm.
And I always looked at it that way. I didn't look at it as a poor me or this lessens my chances or this, that, or the other. I looked at it as a competitive advantage and not in maybe the way that people think. Like, I got my roles and my promotions based on talent, and based on what I had delivered to the organization. But when it comes to when you're different, when you look
Yeah.
different, sound different, act different, think different, it's good. That's a good thing. You stand
Yeah.
out. You're more likely to be heard, I believe, because again, you're thinking different. Women and men think differently. I don't
Yes.
think that, Pedro. Okay, good. And
I agree with you. And I feel
good
sometimes like
thing.
we might be walking on, on a tightrope with a conversation like this, but this is the reality of it. I believe you 100%.
It's an amazing thing to be a one of
Yeah.
few, in my opinion. You stand out just naturally. You stand out, and then again, your thought process is often different, not radically different than male counterparts, but nuanced enough. And if you can just not look at it as a disadvantage or as if you know I can't think of a good word, but just like it doesn't set you back, it sets you forward is my point. And so lean
Right.
into it and own it and
Yeah.
leverage it.
Don't be intimidated by it, because I'm
No,
sure
I,
some people might be intimidated.
I think it's great. And I will tell you, I have had the opportunity to work alongside a lot of incredible male counterparts. And they have admitted to me, I'm thinking of gentleman in particular who shall remain nameless, but he admitted to me this when you came on board, it was an all male team. When you came on board, I had to kind of check myself. I had to think about some things and just, you
Really?
brought yeah, like you brought a unique perspective and perhaps I had to be on better behavior or whatever it is.
Ooh.
But yeah, I think and he and I are dear friends to this day.
I love that
Um
he admitted that, the fact that he
Awesome.
had to go through that, whatever, but the fact that he was like, "Hey, I had to check myself." Who says that, right?
Yeah, right. And it was incredibly self-aware. And also, again, I think diversity is overused, candidly. But I think it's incredibly important. And to me, diversity means a number of things, the least of which is diversity of thought. And I think anytime, a female enters into an all-male team or an all-male industry,
Yeah.
it immediately brings diversity of thought. And
Yeah.
that's always a good thing.
Mhm. 100%. And working in teams, having been a manager myself, um, you do want to, offer different mindsets, different approaches, different thoughts, different feels, um, and I was kind of blown away when I, um, kept fielding calls and getting introduced to different people, and by far the majority are women who are looking to get into medical sales, and it's badass. When back, let's say 10 years ago, it was just like rare to see a woman come through, and it's like nice because, I'll say it right, like there's nothing like a badass woman sales rep who steps in, and the customer is used to the same old kind of
Right.
guy, right? Another dude, another bro, another whatever, right? Um, and you have a woman who comes in and can hold her own, and she outshines the guys. It's like it happens quite a bit, and almost not enough. But apparently now they're coming. So,
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, go
so
ahead.
no, I'm glad you said that. I feel like it's with the culture that we live in, you got to be mindful of your words and such. But the reality of it is, that there is, a different dynamic to having a woman step in. And I've had this conversation before, with Natasha Siegel too, who was with Mako, and she made a big impact and we had a great chat over it. You've been a manager for Stryker. Um, and now you're the CEO of your own company. You've done a lot of hiring. I imagine you've let go of some individuals. You've made tough decisions. What do you look for when you're interviewing, when you're trying to fill a role?
Yeah. So I can't take full credit for this philosophy and I'll butcher parts of it. But the gist is I don't recall if it was an Instagram post or an inspirational quote or a story I read, but it was about this individual who what they look for On a resume, yes, but not necessarily. More so in speaking with individuals and talking to them in a process is they don't want the person who went to the Ivy League school and graduated into this extraordinary network and landed the big job. What they look for is the person who had loss. So they went to, it doesn't really matter about where you went to school, but perhaps you tried out for the volleyball team and you didn't make it. And you
Mm,
came back next year and you made varsity.
yeah.
Adversity is my point. And so
Yes.
I thought that was a great summary of how I look at people when I'm hiring. It's I don't want your resume to look perfect. I want some failure points along the way because that's going to show me that when you fail, you get back up and you try
Mm,
again. And again, I think so many people focus on my resume's got to be perfect, my referrals have to be perfect, this has to be perfect. And perhaps that's true for a lot of hiring managers, but not for me. I want someone with a little bit of rough around the edges, a lot of grit, like someone who, like, I'll get Pedro. I may not be the smartest person, but I assure you, if you knock me down, I am getting back up. I
yeah.
promise that. And
Yeah.
that's what I look for. And, um, and so I think that's incredibly important. And you know this, that is med device sales in a nutshell. Like, someone's going to punch you between the eyes, then they're going to punch you in the gut, then they're going to kick you while you're down. And it's what do you do to get back up? Because quota waits for no one.
Yeah.
So how are you going to push through the no? How are you going to tackle the objection? How are you going to run through the brick wall? So that's what I look for in a nutshell. I also think it's really important I want to know who you are. I want to know, there's only so much you can get out of an interview process, but a lot of it for me, and I learned this from one of my managers, who is the best eye for talent I've ever seen in my life.
Mm,
But she taught me how to put together teams, and that is really hard. Because as a manager, you're looking for, okay, I need this individual in this specific market, and they have to do
yeah.
well in that market. But also you're looking for how does that person do really well in the market and crush it, and also fit into the rest of the team, round the team out. Are they a good teammate? Are they
Yeah.
competitive but supportive? It's all of these sort of intangibles.
Yeah.
Um, Again, I think so many people focus on their experience and how their resume looks, and that could be important for certain hiring managers, but it was less important for me.
No, I love that. I think whoever's listening, there's probably a lot of people who feel a little bit more relieved because how many people really look at their resume as perfect and everything that they've been through makes complete sense on this direct path to what they want to be. When in reality, that's not what people are looking for, at least in our world.
Yeah, it's
In
also
our
not like nothing's
yeah,
linear,
imperfect
anymore.
is
It really
okay.
Yeah, 100%. I love it. I love imperfection. I think because I also, I want people in the field and people on my team who are themselves. Like, I don't claim to know how to do everything, not even close. And I learn just as much from the people on my team as I do from the people above and around me. And so
Mm,
the imperfections are exactly what make you who you are. And so that lends itself really well to sales, as you know. If you're a robot and you're just regurgitating what you learned, you might have temporary success, but this is a marathon, not a sprint. And
yeah,
so, in order to have long term consistency over time success, you have to adopt your own way of selling, your own style. You have to lean into your personality and really drive to your strengths. And not everybody is built the same, as we know. And so,
yeah,
individuality is very cool. I think it lends itself to success long term, and again, it goes back to that diversity concept. It's how do we build all these different people who are really good at what they do, but also different from the next. Homogenous is not where you want to be at all.
I love that. You're right, because if somebody's building a team, they want to blend. They don't want the same cookie cutter, you know, overly competitive or big extrovert. You want a blend of individuals. And even more importantly, to your point, you just want someone who's being themselves, right?
All
Uh,
day.
if
Good.
if I went into a room, yeah, You sell to someone the way that's comfortable to you, that feels right. If I were to repeat some of the words that you would say, they might not come out right because it's just not
Like,
what I would say, so it would be wrong.
right.
So discover who you are by going back to what we first said at the beginning, by just putting yourself into it. Like, make a choice, right?
Yep. Own
Make a
it.
decision, own it, and dive into it. And that's where you discover who you are, and then lean into your strengths. Like you said, like I just summarized everything you said. I'm on board with it.
No, look
I'm
at you.
on board with it. um, but yeah, that's, I have one last question for you before I let you go. And thank you so much for being on.
Thank
Um,
you.
when it comes to an entrepreneur, running your own business, what advice do you have to give to somebody who is thinking about it, or maybe just got started? Is there something that sticks out? Like, you know, they run into you at a bar and you get chatting for 5 minutes. You're like, what do you got for me? I'm starting my own business. What do
Well,
I do? What do I not do?
I have 3 kids, so you're not gonna run into me at a bar these days. Maybe in my 20s you would have, definitely in my 20s. But now, more so a playground or a children's birthday party. Nonetheless, so I would say one of the things that has carried me through these, first year of entrepreneur and startup life has been a particular podcast called Founders. And it focuses on founders. So, they'll talk about the Steve Jobs of the world. They'll talk about Warren Buffett. They'll talk about the founder of Sony, who has an incredible, fascinating story, like one of the best episodes.
Okay.
Um, so I highly recommend that podcast to entrepreneurs and startup and really anyone, because it'll segue into my next point, and little bit of advice, which is, you know, I believe what actually dictates failure versus success in this world is not your product. It's not necessarily the industry you're in, but it's, can you push through? And you'll hear that over and over and over again in that podcast. It's what separates Steve Jobs or Jeff Bezos was, I mean, when you think about Jeff Bezos, he started selling books online. That's crazy. Like, think about that. I mean, he was selling books.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And and people laughed in his face, much like we're doing, like, books
Yeah.
online. What are you
What a
like,
dork. Okay.
what
Yeah.
a dork. And but he didn't he let the haters hate.
Right.
And I've had people kind of look at me sideways like, one, why were you leaving this incredible career and this incredible job to go make no money out of the gates and do this crazy thing and build something out of nothing? And you have to let that roll off your back. But and back to the Jeff Bezos example, it's like if he had listened to that, or if he had taken the first 100 no's or obstacles and internalized those and listened, he would
Yeah.
not be who he is today. And he would
Right.
tell you. And so much of that pot, and why I think it's so brilliant for anyone, but in particular, people who are down this entrepreneurship startup pathway, it's brilliant because it reinforces there is a thread that strings all of the uber successful founders together, and it's perseverance. It's not the product. It's not how smart they are. It's not whether they graduated from Harvard or Yale. It's the fact that they persevered over and over and over again and over a long period of time. And I'm
Mm.
still new to this. Like, I'm a little infant baby in this journey, but I can tell you I'm seeing why and how hard it is to persevere. It's very,
Yeah.
very hard. And
Right.
I believe that's what sets people apart is they don't listen to the haters, they don't internalize the negativity. They believe in what they're doing, and they stand 2 feet down on that belief, and no one's going to shake or rattle it. And I think that you just need to constantly hammer that into your head, like over and over and over
Hell
again.
yeah.
And hearing from
I
other people and watching others' success is so inspirational to me. And it really does keep me going. So listen to founders. That's not paid. No one's paying me. I'm not an influencer. I'm just some.
You should be.
Yeah,
I'm fired up.
heck no, absolutely not.
Speak
but
with
yeah,
real
totally
conviction. I
unpaid.
love it. You must be a salesperson.
I must be a salesperson. I must.
I'm bought in on it, but it's true though. I mean, I love these movies that are about an individual who
So cool.
rose through and then made a massive impact in the world, right? Or the books, like the book that your husband recommended, the Phil Knight book. But to have a podcast that I could just tune into and hear, and I will listen to the Sony one at the very least.
The Sony one is incredible. You want to talk about, I mean, wild stuff, wild.
Yeah,
Because this was ripped away from him because of they were in a war, and it was just over and over and over again. Like the government just came in and like plucked his business away. It was crazy. So cool. Yeah,
I'll give it
must
a
listen.
go.
Yeah,
I'll give it a go. Well, that's it from me. I'm again super grateful. I fully believe in you that you are going to not stop. If there's ever a way that I can help you, your
likewise.
husband, and your business, and Rick, please let me know.
Thank you.
I believe in it, and you guys are doing something really impactful. Hell yeah.
Yeah, thanks. We're trying. And to all your listeners, trying to get into med device, it's well worth it. It's well worth all the headaches and the toil and the sweat, blood and tears. It's an incredible career path. And yeah, I mean, hopefully they took something from what I had to say today, and reach out if you ever have questions.
Without a doubt. Yeah. Find Julie Schreen on LinkedIn.
Not
Love
the
it.
best at LinkedIn DMs, but I'll try. Awesome.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And remember, if you or a friend want a job in medical sales, the best place to go is medsalesblueprint.com.